Hello everyone, and today I'm going to do a workflow from the Dji Osmo Pocket directly to the computer using Final Cut Pro 10. This is on an iMac. It's a late 2013 21.5 inch, so it's nothing special. It's quite an old system at this point, and I'm going to be importing some 4K footage and we're going to work from that. So if you're new to Final Cut Pro, the first thing you're going to want to do once you're in the program itself is go up to File, and then you're going to want to create a new library. Now I've already got my library open. I've got 3 libraries, so I've made one called Tutorials, so we'll open that library up, and in this library you can see I've got a project that I've already been working on. Now these are the files we're going to use for the project I plan to create today. So what we're going to do, now we're in our new library, we'll go up and we'll go File, New Event, and that then opens this tab up. So you can name the event what you want, so we'll call this one Test, and it's going to go into the Tutorials library. It's going to create a new project. The video resolution is 4K, which is pretty much what I recorded this in, with a resolution of 3840 by 2160, and my frame rate was 60, which I want to keep. Now you have got multiple choices on here. Most people use the Apple ProRes 422. I like to use 422 HQ, and audio I set to surround and 48 kilohertz. So once we've selected all of those, hit OK. Now just prior to doing that, if you are recording in 1080p, I still recommend you set your resolution to 4K on your timeline. 4K 3840, and you'll probably be doing yours at 30. The reason I say this is if you are going to use this to upload to YouTube, you are better off setting your resolution to 4K even though you're only using 1080p footage, because when YouTube does its own conversions, it uses a higher bit rate for any of the video formats that are in 4K. Even though you're in 1080p, because it recognised the 4K tag, it will give you a higher bit rate and a better quality on your 1080p footage. So it's just worth recommending. Okay, so once we've done that, hit OK, and we start working from here. Now we've set the preferences we want for the project, we're going to go across to the left hand side of the screen and click on the test. Now this is what we've just created. That was the settings we made with the resolution and the frame rates, and it's created the project test, and as you can see there's nothing in there at the moment, it's just untitled project. So we can click up here and just put test. Okay, so now we want to import the media. So click on this downward arrow here, and then we can go through. Now I have set up an external drive which I call Final Cut Pro X, and in there I have my channel, and I also have a stock folder. Now in that stock folder I've got various bits from projects I've worked on, but the ones I want to use today are going to be these 4, which are all being dragged into this folder. So I'm going to select one, then holding the shift key on the keyboard, select the top one I want, which will select them all, and then I'm just going to hit import selected. Now I'm not using proxy media or any of this stuff. This is a straightforward simple guide. I'm using the original files that came directly off the camera. They've not been edited, they've not been converted, they are directly from the camera, so there'll be nothing changed on there. So you can see instantly they've popped up in the window here, and these are our footages. You can click on one and just have a look at the quality of it, and if you hit spacebar it'll start playing. There you can see it's spacebar on the other one. Okay, so I'm pretty happy with that. So the first thing I want to do, I've got my timeline down here, and I want to create some text. So let's go into our text generators, and these will vary depending on what you installed. The basic ones, you'll have some basic ones in there, but I've got other ones that I've collected over the years. So I'm going to pick as just a simple title, a basic title, and I'm going to drag it down onto the timeline, and there it is. So moving, just by clicking, I'm moving the playhead to where I want, and I'm going to move up here, and I'm going to double click on here, and we're going to put this, we're going to type test, so name it test, and there we go. So that's completed the title, and then if we go to the back to the playhead to the start, hit spacebar, you can see it shows test. So there's our video title. Now if that's a little bit long, we can go to the end of it and just drag it down. You can see the numbers come down there. I'm going to drag it down to say 2.39 seconds, and then run it again, test, and then that's it. It comes to the end. Right, so now going back up here, top left, got the shutter board with the star on. We're going to click on that, and we're going to take the video we want. I'm going to drag it down, and you can select parts of it if you want to. You just have a section here or there, but I'm going to take the whole thing. So we've got our first clip in place. So let's hit the spacebar to get it to play, and we can see the video here, and not really much going on. There's a lot of grass, but at this point you can see it pans up to the trees, which is more interesting. So I'm going to roll the playhead back just by clicking and dragging it back until we get to this point here where it pans up. So I'm going to then go back, and I'm going to drag that all the way back to there. So then when we go back and play, we have test, and it goes to there. And that's not very smooth, so I'm not really keen on that. So what I'm going to do is make some changes to that. I'm going to go across to the install transitions, which you might not have. If you haven't, you just need to click on here, and that will bring them up. You may have your effects tab open, but you want to just keep clicking, click through until you get your transitions, and at the top hit all. I'm going to use what they call the cross dissolve, and I'm just going to drag that across and drop it between the two. So now when we run this, get the cross dissolve. Now it's a little bit jerky, because if you look at the top here, there's two dots. That means it hasn't rendered it at this point. So you can either wait till it renders, which it now has, which is only a few seconds. Just go back again and hit spacebar to play it, and there you go, renders and comes in. Now it hasn't rendered the rest of the footage, so it's going to be running a bit slow. So there we go, that's quite nice. And then it pans down again, looking at the grass. So I'm not happy with that. Let's just drag that back to here, and then as we come through, just drag it to that point there, which is probably more interesting. Just to there, and we're going to stop it there and drag that back. So that's our first clip completed. Pretty happy with. So we're coming through, as you can see, and it then stops. So let's have a look at the second clip we've got. Let's have a look this time. Let's see where we want to have a look at this. Got a few interesting bits. So let's drag the whole clip down and just go back a little bit, and then hit spacebar, and then see what happens. So I'm going to go from that point there and just drag it to there, and stop it there and drag it back to there. Okay, now I'm going to pop another cross dissolve in that we had from there, just a simple cross dissolve. We're going to pop that into there. So next up we've got some nice footage of the trees, so we can drag that into there and go back to the playhead. Hand shot that comes up there, so let's just drag that to there, go back. Okay, and we'll drop another cross dissolve in just to smooth the whole thing. See if they're janky because it's still rendering the file. So we'll let it there. Okay, so now I've got some interesting bits in here that I want, but I don't want all of it. So if we go just on this where the index tab is and click here, you've got a blade tool. Now you take that blade tool and you see it's red. I'm going to take it to where the playhead is and I'm going to click it once. That has now cut the clip. So if I go back up to my select, that clip is now separate. So I can drag through and see where I want. So I like that bit there, and I then want to perhaps have another section here. So I'm going to take the blade and cut that, go back to my select tool and remove this section here and pop another transition in, and then scroll through a bit more. We're walking through the trees and we get to here and turn and we go back. I'm going to stop on the tree trunk there, go back up here and get my blade tool, and I'm going to cut it again and then let it scroll forward and then cut it again there, remove that section, put a cross dissolve in, and we go back. Again, it's because you can see the dots are there. I've not allowed it enough time to create the transition, but I have background rendering turned on, so as soon as I stop doing anything you can see the dots have disappeared and it's rendered. So let's go. And that ends. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go back over to the transitions panel and I'm looking for dissolves, and there is a fade to colour. So I'm going to drag that over here. If you go up here you can see colour black, so this will fade to black. So let's run the last one. Boom, fades to black. Okay, so I've got my whole sequence now and I'm pretty happy with it, but not overly keen. There's wind noise and everything else, so I'm not really happy with that. So if I look down here, this section here is all the sound. So these are the sounds that have been recorded. I can drag those down all the way to the bottom and either get rid of them completely by dragging them, which I've done. So that's now silenced everything. So now when I hit play, got no sound at all, which is good, but then it's a little bit boring now. So let's go up to here. So we had our shutter board with the star on, so if we click now to the right of that, we've got iTunes. Now I've downloaded lots and lots of music, and I've downloaded from YouTube's media library, so all of these you can use without any issues at all. You're not going to get any copyright strikes, so you can use them for anything you want. All the licensing agreements are on there, so you just go and download from the YouTube media library and you'll have access to a ton of items. So let's just have a look and see what we've got. So I'm going to drag that all the way down and I can either start it just as my title comes in, or I can drag it right to the beginning of the title. So let's go back now to the playhead. So it comes in a little bit sharp, so if we just hover around at the beginning, you can see there's a little button pops up, and when you get the arrows left and right, you can drag that along and that will fade the audio in. And we know with video it ends here, so we're going to go to this end and we're just going to hover at the end and click once and then drag back. Now that will drag it to the end, but we don't just want the music to abruptly stop, so we're going to move just to here till we get the arrows left and right, and we're just going to drag it back slightly, just so as we get a fade out. So when we get to so we get the fade in and we'll get the fade out. Right, so the next thing to do will be to get the video rendered and sent to YouTube. Okay, so if we're going to export, we've got a couple of options. We can go up here to the top right and just click this little square box with the up arrow in, and we can export it. Now, if you export to a master file, that will export it uncompressed in the full quality that's at the moment with no issues at all. So that will be a master file. So if you're going to output for 720, 1080, prepare for Facebook, you've got all of these on there. Now there is a YouTube setting where it will directly upload it to my account. I don't use that because I find it's just an absolute faff and it doesn't always work well, and the quality settings are not brilliant. I tend to go, because this is 4K footage, for Apple 4K devices. Now I wouldn't usually do this within the program. I would usually export to compressor, but that's a separate package and that's a tutorial for another day. So we're going to keep it simple, and we are going to export directly from Final Cut itself. I'm going to select Apple 4K devices. Now within here you've got H.264 faster encode. No, we don't do that. We go H.264 better quality. We change the resolution to 3840 by 2160, which is what we decided originally, and that is what the timeline was set at. So once that's done, just hit next. It's going to ask you where you want to save it, so I am going to save it to my downloads drive, and I'm going to hit next. So then up here you can see next to the little key, if you click on that, it will show that it's now sharing, waiting, and now it'll say writing test MP4. This is not a very long clip, so it's not going to take a huge amount of time to do, as you can see. Bearing in mind this is 4K footage at 60 frames a second, so it's still quite good, so we're going to let that finish. Okay, so Final Cut has finished rendering. You can see there's a little tick up here which indicates it's all done. Everything else is showing as idle, so I'm pretty happy that's complete. So on my desktop here it is. Here's my test file, so double click on that to open. So if you enjoyed this video, give me a thumbs up. If you dislike this video, give me a thumbs down. And as usual, please hit that subscribe button. Really helps me grow the channel, and hit the notification bell so you get notification when new videos like this come up. Thanks for watching, and I will catch you on the next one.